Hello friends, welcome back to Program with Akshay, and in today's video we are going to start a new series, AWS CDK. Yes, that's right. We are going to start a new masterclass which is AWS CDK. So this part is all about the introduction part where we are going to see the objectives, the prerequisites and the overview of CDK. But in upcoming sessions or in the upcoming part where we are going to see the practical implementation where we are going to create infrastructure as code through AWS CDK. So let's start. So, the introduction about AWS CDK, where we are going to cover three topics today in this today's part. What are the objectives of AWS CDK? What are the prerequisite of AWS CDK? And the overview of AWS CDK. Okay, as the name suggests, AWS CDK. So AWS CDK is nothing but Cloud Development Kit. It is an open source framework that helps you to provision cloud application resources. Okay, by using programming language like TypeScript, Go, C Sharp, and JavaScript and Node.js. Okay, so basically it helps you to leverage the AWS CDK to write code that will provision AWS resources. Okay, so if you are familiar with Terraform and if you are familiar with CloudFormation, this should be very straightforward. Don't worry, I will teach you each and every detail about AWS CDK. Okay, so this is about AWS CDK. Why we should use AWS CDK? Okay, sometimes provisioning cloud application can be very challenging. Okay, it is very a lot of headache. Okay, this may require a lot of manual work, maintaining templates, maintaining versioning, or using domain specific languages. Okay, now here the AWS CDK comes into play, which allows you to harness the power of various languages which you already know, like Node.js, TypeScript, JavaScript, C Sharp, or Go. That you can programmatically code those files, and you can deploy those files, or you can deploy those architectures with the help of CloudFormation templates, and let AWS does the rest. Okay. So here are my top reasons why you should use AWS CDK. You can spin up cloud infrastructure using various languages like TypeScript, Go, JavaScript, and so on and so forth. It allows you to reuse code. This is extremely useful when you are setting up the multiple environments or application. Okay, now assume you have to set up dev environment, you have to set up test environment, you have to set up pre-prod environment, and so on and so forth. Okay, when the AWS CDK is the part of the project, once you promote the code into the various environments or various stages, the CDK automatically deploys your code into the various environment, and the necessary infrastructure gets created. That is the main reason why AWS CDK is preferred. Okay, AWS CDK framework was built with best practices, which keeping in mind. Using them framework and high level constructs helps to ensure does not guarantee that you are using them correctly. Okay, so basically it uses the constructs. Okay, don't worry about the construct and other terminology. I will explain you in detail. Okay, so this is the main reason, with the help of this framework and keeping the best practices in mind, the AWS CDK is designed. Okay, you can commit your code and leverage the AWS CDK as infrastructure as code. Okay, so basically this allows you to change the documented in each source control and gives you the ability to utilize the same system as your application source code. Okay, as I explained earlier in the previous point, if AWS CDK is the part of your application, and if you promote the code or the promote the project in the various branches like dev, test, pre-prod, UAT, and so on and so forth, the AWS CDK will get deployed with the help of CloudFormation template, and your infrastructure will be ready. Okay, we need to write very less code as compared to CloudFormation or Terraform. So that is a very advantage of AWS CDK. Okay, don't worry, we will learn each and every CDK concepts. Okay, with regarding also concepts, we will learn AWS CLI commands, how we are going to create infrastructure as code. Okay, and in this master series or in this master class, we are going to use Node.js as our programming languages. Okay, so you need to have at least basic understanding about Node.js. Okay, what is IAC? Okay, IAC is nothing but infrastructure as code. Okay, you do the programming languages, you create a code with the help of your programming languages like JavaScript, Python, C Sharp, and so on and so forth. That code will get deployed on AWS platform, and your architecture or your infrastructure will get created. Okay, we have various infrastructure as code tools like such as Terraform, AWS CDK, and CloudFormation. Okay, these are there are other there are other infrastructure as tools available, infrastructure as code tools available in the market, but these are the three popular tools which each and every company or each and every developer or a DevOps engineer are using currently. Okay, so we will use this AWS CDK as infrastructure as tool. We will configure this as AWS CDK and we will deploy on our AWS account. Okay, so in this masterclass we are going to see each and everything, and where we are going to see the practical implementation, how we are going to create that. Okay, we are going to use we are going to use Lambda functions with examples, how we are going to create Lambda functions with the help of Node.js, how we are going to push the Lambda functions, how the Lambda functions will get deployed on our AWS account, and so on and so forth. So don't worry, we will learn each and every aspect about AWS CDK in this masterclass. So here is a tip. Once you go for the interview, the interviewer will ask what is AWS CDK, why we should use AWS CDK, how it is beneficial to a DevOps or a developer. Okay, he will ask you about the concepts of AWS CDK, what are the benefits of AWS CDK as compared to Terraform or as compared to CloudFormation templates. So the benefits of AWS CDK is that in CloudFormation it is used as the programming language, or you can say the template is used as a YAML or JSON file. Okay, so you need to have the basic understanding about JSON or YAML, and it requires a lot of coding. Okay, if a particular indentation is missed, your YAML file or your JSON file won't get compiled. Okay, in Terraform it requires a lot of coding. It internal or under the hood it uses API as code. So in case if the API creation of API like for S3 or for creation of Lambda is failed, your infrastructure won't get created. Okay, whereas in AWS CDK we are using import libraries for S3, for Lambda, or your SQL instance, and so on and so forth. Now in case of our AWS CDK build is getting failed, we can easily track the line number, which line number it got failured, what is the exactly the error. So basically the debugging and tracing of each and every file becomes very easy in compared to AWS CDK. So those are the advantage of AWS CDK. So while you are going for an interview, you should always try to answer the questions in each and every manner, like what is the difference between why you are using AWS CDK as compared to Terraform or CloudFormation template. So let's move ahead. So what's your gain? Why you should watch this master series? Okay, so you will learn each and every AWS CDK concepts with me. Okay, we will deep dive into each and every CDK concepts with practical implementation, where we will create DynamoDB, where we will create S3 buckets, we will create AWS Lambda functions, we will create complex architectures. Okay, so that is your gain. So if you wanted to learn AWS CDK, which if you are company or if you want to upskill your knowledge, you can watch this masterclass series. Okay, so whom this series is for? Okay, so this series is for developers, like full stack developer, cloud engineers who wanted to upskill their knowledge, like who wanted to learn AWS CDK. They might be knowing Terraform, they might be knowing CloudFormation, or they might be knowing any other tool. But if they wanted to learn AWS CDK, they can watch this masterclass. DevOps engineer who wanted to learn how to provision resources on AWS using AWS CDK. So generally the DevOps person generally knows Terraform or CloudFormation. If they wanted to learn AWS CDK, then they can watch this masterclass series. Any a senior solution architect or a solution architect who wanted to understand how the CDK works under the hood, how the CDK performs, they can watch this series. And everyone who wanted to upskill their knowledge and not getting typecasted to a particular developer, or as a full stack a developer or a DevOps engineer, or it might be a backend engineer who is only working on UI and backend. Okay, so this is series for everyone. So welcome. So prerequisites. There are some prerequisites for starting the masterclass, you need to have the basic knowledge of OOPS and TypeScript. So as I said, we are going to use Node.js as our programming language. So you need to have a basic understanding of TypeScript. If you don't have any basic understanding of TypeScript, don't worry, I will help you to understand the each and every concept about TypeScript. OOPS. So basically, for AWS CDK, the framework is designed in such a way. Basically, it follows an abstraction framework or abstraction methodology. Okay, so basically, under the hood, it uses an OOPS concept. Why it uses an OOPS concept? If you see the code, if you watch the masterclass of the remaining videos or upcoming videos, you will see that we are going to create a constructor. We are going to import the libraries. We are going to create strings, or we are going to create literals. So basically, whatever the OOPS concepts are there in C Sharp or Java, that remains the same in our AWS CDK. The second point is we need to have an AWS account, okay, and the basic understanding about AWS cloud. So this is a very important prerequisite. We need to have your AWS account. Okay, you can create your AWS account, okay, a free account or a paid account, and a basic understanding about AWS account or the various services like S3, DynamoDB, and AWS Lambdas. Okay, coming to the third point, like each and every person who is trying to watch this video should have a basic understanding what exactly the each and AWS services is all about, like why we are using AWS Lambdas, why we are creating DynamoDB, why we are creating S3 service. So those are the basic services which we are going to use in our masterclass series. Why AWS CDK? Okay, again I'm reiterating that. So there are list of services which can be provisioned through AWS CDK. Okay, like API Gateway, DynamoDB, S3, CloudWatch events, CloudWatch logs, SNS, then Cognito and Kinesis, and so on. There might be various also services where we can provision all those through AWS CDK. Okay, there are different ways to provision resources, like manually, scripting, deployment. Okay, but there are pros and cons. Okay, now manually creating AWS resources, like you go on to log in into a AWS portal, you create an you search for DynamoDB service, and you create a DynamoDB table. Okay, where you create the partition key and hash key and so on and so forth. Okay, with the help of AWS CDK, we can create scripts like how to create a DynamoDB table, what should be the name of the DynamoDB table, what should be the partition key, what should be the hash key. So this, once you deploy that script AWS CDK with the help of CloudFormation, so in your dev account, that DynamoDB table is created. Okay, so in case if your DevOps engineer creates a new environment, like suppose a pre-UAT, okay, and you need to deploy your code. Okay, once you deploy your code, and if your AWS CDK is the part of the code, that new DynamoDB table will be automatically gets created. You don't need to log in into the console, and you don't need to create a DynamoDB table manually. Okay, scripting deployment. Okay, using available script based libraries, like under the hood calling API as created resource. So better than manual deployments, definitely, but like Terraform, it use under the hood as API to create resources. So if is S3 API is not available, or if DynamoDB API is not available, or suppose VPC API is not available, our resources won't get created. Okay, so the cons are, like, it is very hard to update. So it is very hard to update if you wanted to update our production environment, or if you want to update the UAT environment, it is very hard to update. No rollback feature is there. So no idea whether the resources are created or not once they are executed in the pipeline. So we don't have any idea whether our resources are created or not. With the help of AWS CDK, if you see the build steps or the execution steps in your GitLab runner or in your GitLab, you can see the resources are getting created with the help of CloudFormation. Okay, the resource will get updated, and if once it is in progress, the resources will get created. Okay, each and every time the resource, once you push the code, it will check whether the resource is already existing, resource is already there in the environment. If yes, it will not update. If there are entities or any properties are added in the file of AWS CDK, it will automatically update, like adding a GSI in the DynamoDB table. If the GSI is not there, it will update the GSI for that for that particular DynamoDB table. So these are the advantage why we are using AWS CDK. Okay, so CloudFormation templates. Coming to CloudFormation templates, it uses JSON and YAML language. Okay, the pros, it is manageable. Yes, it is definitely manageable when there is a chunk of code where you need to create like a AWS time stream database or AWS DynamoDB database. So it is very manageable when there is very less coding. Okay, but if you are to create the whole infrastructure for a particular project, so it requires a lot of coding. You need to have a proper understanding about JSON and YAML with proper indentation. As I earlier specified, if any comma or if any space is missed, your CloudFormation template won't get compiled. Okay, so it is a complicated syntax. Okay, so what is the solution for this? The solution is AWS CDK. Okay, all the complexity is abstracted out in AWS CDK. Okay, you write the code in TypeScript and then let the CloudFormation does the rest. Okay, we will see how it works in the upcoming videos. Okay, it supports a lot of libraries. Okay, like S3, DynamoDB, RDS instance, TimeStream, VPC endpoints. Each and everything it supports. Okay, how we can provision the resources with the help of AWS CDK. So what are the pros? The pros are it uses OOPS concept under the hood for building blocks of AWS CDK. As I said, under the hood it uses AWS CDK and it follows a full abstraction methodology, more control over the resources which are created in your AWS account, which has easy rollback, easy versioning, which are very easy to manage. So these are the pros and of AWS CDK. Okay. So this is the official documentation of AWS CDK. I will provide the link in the description. You can go through and watch or read all the documentation about AWS CDK. Thank you. Congratulate yourself, friends. You have basically covered the first video of AWS CDK Masterclass, where we have seen what is AWS CDK, why we should use AWS CDK, what are the benefits of AWS CDK, what are the prerequisites of AWS CDK, and what are the pros and cons of other infrastructure as code. So, thank you for watching today's video. Stay tuned for the upcoming videos on AWS CDK Masterclass. Bye bye. Have a great day.